coming from that independence aspect to the point where we actually become older and maybe we will need other people to take care of us. I think psychologically and emotionally, that may be a very tough moment, right?
Yeah.
Because we are thinking, oh my God, I don't want to ask for help, but I think I might need to.
I do want to go to the library, or if I do want to go get something to eat, I have to depend on my children. I have to depend on, and then my children are busy. They have kids of their own. You know, my grandkids, they don't have time for me. They're playing with their friends. You know, I can't ask my neighbor. I don't want to be a burden on them. So it's very hard to accept the fact that you have to let some of those things go. However, when you do get a caregiver or someone, the caregiver can take you to those places. You can regain your independence. So even though there are some functional parts that you yourself cannot perform, the caregiver can help you still maintain those, you know, those life events that you cherish so much.
When we're treating the actual client and we go, oh, you haven't been able to get into your visits as often as we would like. And they would go, well, I can't really get a ride that often. And then you start asking, oh, or why did you sprain your wrist? Oh, I was preparing my meal and it's just a little harder, but I really wanted to do this. And so what we try to do is go, okay, you're not looking for a substitute for your life. You're looking for somebody to help supplement. So that's one way, just to help supplement and augment their life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Polish Your Life. You know, every day, we are becoming a little bit older. Every day we see us getting a little bit older, but we also see other people getting older, our friends, our parents, neighbors. And, you know, as we age, I think it's very important to make sure that the quality of our lives remains very good. And that's why today we're going to talk about home care and the level of support that you should expect for yourself, for your loved ones, and the level of support available. I'm very excited for today's guest, and we are also here with one of our hosts that you already know. I'm here with Dr. Todd Johnson-Bach, who's going to introduce himself first, and then please, Dr. Todd, if you could introduce our awesome guest, and let's talk home care.
Oh, let's talk. And so, Mike, thank you as always for this venue. We are seeing so much growth in Polish Your Life, this group, aren't we? It's incredible. It is fantastic. And one of our newest members that just joined us and was getting us so excited last week, and we're like, we got to have her on and tell us about it, is Janan Plummer. And Janan, if you all see, by the way, Mike, they got to see last week's show just to get a little snippet of that. But we were so excited about Janan's message that we wanted her to come on. And Janan's going to share with us. She's a registered nurse. She's a reservist. She is, in my mind, a certified ninja. I know she's a great martial artist. And today she is also the owner of home health care for the elderly. And she's going to take it away and tell us more about that. Janan, I know I didn't give you certain justice there with the intro. So tell us more. And then I want to hear really quickly, or get us started, about why did you get started with this? What really drives you? Because as evident when we first meet you, there is a ton of passion in what you do. Myself and the viewers can't wait to hear about this.
Oh, well, thank you, Mike. And thank you, Dr. Todd, for having me on. Again, my name is Janan Plummer. I've been in the Navy Reserve. I'm a lieutenant commander. I'm a Navy nurse. I've been in the military for about 15, 16 years now. This year will make 16 years. I've also worked at the VA hospital. I've worked with veterans. I've worked in civilian hospitals in Rockville in certain areas. So nursing is my passion, and healthcare is my passion. One of the reasons why I got particularly involved with home care particularly is because in more areas where people are less privileged, you see that they have the need for services, but sometimes they just can't afford the services. People want to stay in their home. They have more control in their homes. The home is the place where they have family members over. They can decide what they want to do in their home, as opposed to going into a more structured facility, like going into a nursing home or an assisted living. You know, you kind of have to get with the program that is set for you. So people do better. They adapt better. They recover better. During the COVID season, we've had patients that had COVID. They were discharged home. We were able to bring them a caregiver. They recovered very quickly. We were able to help them get the foods that they want, as opposed to being in a facility and being, given foods that you don't want. Catering to different cultures that have, various specific things that they can or cannot eat, or things that they like or they cannot or they don't like. So having a home care nurse or a nurse's aide, it makes the client feel as though, they have more control over their care. It's more customized to what they want. And they do a lot better. They recover better. Their families are happier. Their moods are happier. They have more one-on-one attention, as opposed to going to a facility and being short-staffed. You have one CNA that is taking care of 6, 7 patients, less exposure to other various diseases. If your roommate has the flu, you're less likely, you're more likely to get it. So I have a passion for it, because I do enjoy seeing, people in their home enjoying the company of their family while still having a caregiver there to get them the things that they need so that they can stay healthy in their homes.
Excellent. Excellent. That is fantastic. And, let's go right to that one key point, and that is control. And you look across any research when it talks about medication, amount of pain medication people have to take, whatever. When people have more control, they typically do what when it comes to medication? Take less or need less, because you give them control. Can you speak a little bit more about the control?
Yeah, so the control is because you get to decide what you want, right? The plans are customized for what you need. We generally, as caregivers, of course, when the nurse goes in, when I go into a home and I generally do the intake, I do a full assessment to find out exactly what the needs are. What have the latest changes been medically in that person? Has there been any recent decline in the ability to perform functional activities of daily livings? Have there been a decline in their mental status or their mood? So then based on that information, we will customize a plan based on what they want. So the family members will typically tell me, okay, this is exactly what we need. We want their home. We need mostly light housekeeping to keep them in the home. My mom is a hoarder. The only way that we'll keep her in her home is if we know that she has a structured home environment, her home is clean, and the caregiver is making sure that she's dry. Or you have another caregiver that says, okay, the only thing I need, I don't want any caregivers in my room, or I don't want caregivers doing this. This is the only thing that I want the caregiver to do. So we customize the program based on, we don't have one general program for every client, because we're essentially coming into this person's home. They make the rules for what they want and what they need. They let us know, okay, we go over their doctor's orders, and we try to, because I'm a nurse, I try my best to encourage the patient as best as I can. We go over their medications, we go over their plans with them. And based on that plan and what they tell me, we create a plan for them so that they feel involved. So the client has to feel involved in the care and not feel like we're just coming into their home and taking over.
Have you had some awesome stories where you've heard about people, like maybe they were in a facility or they were coming out of a facility, and like the difference of care? So they were in a facility, maybe things, and this isn't to bad mouth facilities. It's not at all. There's great facilities out there, but can you show an option where this home health care really did well for a particular client? Or especially during COVID, I cannot tell you how many people told me terrible stories about loved ones being in facilities and they couldn't see them for weeks or maybe even months, and how, gosh, hopeless people felt when grandma was in a facility for so long and they couldn't see them. But so if you could kind of give us a story about what the difference and what that was like.
Yeah, well, generally, the patients that I've had, they usually try home care first before they go to an assisted living facility. Okay. And that's generally because a cost, number one, and the dynamics of the family. I know from my experience, a lot of clients who are discharged from my facility, that discharged from home care, that go into a facility, they feel abandoned. They feel so the family is kind of taking, and there's so many different dynamics that are involved in that decision. So a lot of, a lot of people feel abandoned because their family members have, taken them to a long-term care facility and they feel as though they're not going to be visited, or because they're becoming inconvenience to them. So emotionally and mentally, it's very hard for them. So in my experience, knowing people that have had their parents and who have sent them over to long-term care facilities, it's put a little bit of a strain in that relationship, because the mother is kind of like, I raised you all these years and now you abandon the facility with all these strangers.
Yes.
And it makes them feel bad when you're in a nursing home. And let's say you're semi-functional, right? You're probably a minimum assist some of your the activities of daily living. And you're in a room with someone who's totally dependent, and you see them changing their diaper next to you, and you see them screaming in pain next to you. It really does something to your morale. When you step going into the kitchen or the dining area and you see the person drooling, and it really does something to your morale, because you begin to compare yourself to see, is this, my condition?
Right.
But there's so many stories out there of people feeling, neglected by, facilities, the staff, or they're pressing the call light and no one's answering them for, 5-10 minutes. They're sitting, they fall, nobody's there to help. So I've heard a lot of those stories, and that's why a lot of people like to be at home. They prefer to be at home because they know that if anything ever happens to them, they can get attention right away.
That's nice. And I'm definitely seeing more of my patients are talking about trying to take this on, to take care of their loved ones on their own. They're like, there's no way. And I go, that's great. And that's wonderful. But you know what I see, Janan, is I see them getting so tired, and they're starting to see me more, the chiropractor more, because they're trying to do more than is humanly possible. Maybe they have a job and they're trying to take care of their loved one. And they go, you're going to have to get somebody in. And sometimes they think the only solution is to get mom to a facility. And again, we're not bad mouthing facilities. That might be the case, but maybe it's time to consider home health care. I really admire people that are trying to do that. How does that begin? Do they just reach out and contact you?
Yeah. You mean as far as the family members?
Yeah. Like, how does the family go? Like, hey, we're trying to take care of mom. We want to keep mom in the home as long as possible, but we're just getting tired. We can't handle it alone as a family. What can we do?
Yeah.
Would this be a great time to give you guys a call?
Oh, absolutely. We get calls like that all the time. I just got a call last Friday. A woman, she's crying hysterically on the phone. She's overwhelmed. Her mom came home from the hospital. She has all these devices. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to change a Foley catheter. She has a bed sore. She doesn't know how to treat it. And the home care skilled agency, because what we do is primarily non-medical services. So generally the skilled care, where they would get home physical therapy, home occupational therapy, or home RN to kind of help with the more skilled care, you'll see them, they haven't come to the home yet because the family was just discharged. Nobody has come to the home. I don't have any medical equipment. I don't have a bedside commode. I can't get my family member out of bed. What do I do? So they usually call us after, they call it caregiver burnout. They're essentially just worn out. They're just done, and they just are desperate. And we get those calls all the time, and they call us. We do an in-home evaluation. And every home care agency is responsible for doing a home care evaluation, and they usually do it at no cost. And it's basically just to evaluate the home environment to see what the needs are. And then you can decide whether or not you want to go with the services based on, what you like about the company.
Fantastic. Mike, I know you're chomping at the bit to get in on this topic, and being from another country originally, Mike, you might have an interesting perspective on home health care and health care for the elderly.
Yeah, so thank you for, bringing it up that I'm from another country, a little bit different perspective. And it's true, because in Poland, where I'm from, you think that asking for support, or many people think that asking for support is a sign of weakness. And you want to always try to be independent. You want to always show that you're independent, and people in Poland value that independence. And I think it's because of our history. Like, our country was taken off the map for years and years and years, and we had to fight for that independence. So I think it's kind of like in our genes that we want to fight for it, that we want to keep it once we have it, and we are proud to have it. And when you lose it, I can only imagine that when people are so proud to regain independence, right? So, for example, I was a kid, I was dependent on my parents, I was dependent on my teachers, I was dependent on so many people. And now, being an adult, we become independent. We can do what we want to do with our life, and we feel like we are in control, and we can even provide for others, which is amazing. And I'm thinking that coming from that independence aspect to the point where we actually become older and maybe we will need other people to take care of us, I think psychologically and emotionally that may be a very tough moment, right?
Yeah.
Because we are thinking, oh my God, I don't want to ask for help, but I think I might need to. What I love about America, and that is about coaching, about consulting, about counseling as well, is that people are much more open to that. And it's not a sign of a weakness. It's even you being smart to know who to ask for help. So that's how I look at what you provide as a huge value to people, because instead of holding on to the independence beyond the point that it's too late and then ending up in actually a nursing home facility where the environment may be a huge shock, it is so much better to have somebody who's going to help you with, keep that independence. So I wanted to ask you, if somebody's already feeling like they're losing that independence and they maybe hesitate, should I ask for help or maybe I shouldn't? And the same with people who are taking care of somebody, at which point should they actually contact you? What are the smart questions that they can ask you if they're not sure?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the minute that you start wondering whether or not you need home care, I would just get a consultation. A consultation is free. We have clients that call us only when they need us. They don't have a fixed schedule. We don't go there every week. They basically say, this week I have an appointment. I'm feeling a little weak. A family member, my daughter can't take me. Can you guys help me? And then we're right there for them. Then as they begin to, as they lose independence or they see that they're continuing to decline, they'll ask us for more time. But, initially, some people just need to kind of get their feet wet before they jump in. They need to feel like they can trust the agency. They don't know who's coming into their home. They don't know what the person is, capable of doing. So they're very apprehensive about it. But once they, just the initial consultation, when you start to feel as though there might be a decline, or when you start thinking about it, it's all completely okay just to get a consultation, let somebody come. You have someone on standby in the event that you need care. So when you're having a day and you're feeling weak, or you've had treatment at the hospital and and you're going home and you're just feeling really tired and you just want somebody just for a few hours, you will become more comfortable with the idea of accepting the help.
Wow. And I see that's such a big value, because as you're helping people remain independent for longer, because even though they get some external help from someone like your organization, they still are independent because they're not locked in a facility. They don't have to bother family members when they don't have to. And I also wanted to bring up another point that you said in the conversation that we had before when we were discussing this subject, that I think it's a very important part that a lot of families may not consider, which is you, especially in the context of our doctors networking group and collaboration in healthcare, you actually take an active role in collaboration. Because as one of the examples that you mentioned, you may be at somebody's home or one of the employees, one of the caregivers, and then you notice that there is a sore that is not healing. Maybe the person is diabetic and they actually didn't recognize that that's a semi-emergency or something to be looked at. You are able to not only identify the problem before it's too late, but also you are the first line to coordinate these providers, start making phone calls and making sure that the person is getting the right help. So that's something I want to bring to your attention if you're watching and you're wondering, should I request help from somebody or should I not? If there is any doubt that somebody can just make a mistake or take the wrong pills. I mean, elderly people have a lot of pills usually that they're taking, and then somebody helping them who actually has a lot of experience, who actually will care for them and care about them. I think this is a huge value that you bring to families. And we all feel the same as we felt 20 years ago. Like, I am 40, I feel like I'm 20, but I'm assuming that I will also feel great when I'm 60, but then I will notice that some of the ability of my body is not going to be the same as I'm 40, right? So I think because it's coming to all of us, I just want everybody to realize, if this is part of life, how about we make the quality of our life still awesome, even if we're getting older?
That's exactly right. And that's one of the main concerns that a lot of clients have. It's very hard to lose your independence, right? It's, you're driving before, now you notice a decline in your vision, and now MVA has taken your driver's license. You can't drive. And,
Wow.
Your kids now decide that you can't have your car anymore. So now if I do want to go to the library, or if I do want to go get something to eat, I have to depend on my children. I have to depend on, and then my children are busy. They have kids of their own. My grandkids, they don't have time for me. They're playing with their friends. I can't ask my neighbor. I don't want to be a burden on them. So it's very hard to accept the fact that you have to let some of those things go. However, when you do get a caregiver or someone, the caregiver can take you to those places. You can regain your independence. So even though there are some functional parts that you yourself cannot perform, the caregiver can help you still maintain those life events that you cherish so much, by taking you to those events, taking you to the library, and being your eyes and ears for you, being your hands and your feet for you, so that you can still do those things that you really like to do.
I love it. Dr. Todd, what do you think about this subject, and maybe how do you see that as a healthcare provider? Because we talk in Polish Your Life, we talk a lot about referrals, right? So I am curious if maybe, Dr. Todd, you could say a little bit about it. When you are a therapist of their physical health, sometimes when you talk to them, that they will open up and they will tell you a problem that is also happening in their family, and something is going on. So do you see any opportunities and any real situations where you can actually collaborate together with a home care facility?
Oh, definitely, Mike. And we kind of have alluded to this at the very beginning, but we can actually allude to interact with the home health care on two levels. When we're treating the actual client and we go, oh, you haven't been able to get into your visits as often as we would like. And they would go, well, I can't really get a ride that often. And then you start asking, oh, or why did you sprain your wrist? Oh, I was preparing my meal and it's just a little harder, but I really wanted to do this. And so what we try to do is go, okay, you're not looking for a substitute for your life. You're looking for somebody to help supplement. So that's one way, just to help supplement and augment their life. And then another way we talked about is, as a chiropractor, a lot of times we also see the family who is caring for the person and they're strapped. So we can also say to the family member, it's time that you ask for some help, not a substitute for your diligence as a family member, but an augmentation or a substitute. So it's neat that we can refer either the patient directly, or we can refer the family to home health care. Either way is great. And I love it because I'm Dr. Todd Johnson. I'm the family chiropractor. So I love this way of referring. Jeanette, can you speak more to how you hear about us? Because I assume you hear about us from direct clients contact you and families contact you. Is that the case?
Yeah, so we're on the PG County Senior Network. We're on Facebook. My particular healthcare is a nationwide franchise. We've been in business for over 50 years, but my particular agency is in PG County. But if you Google Interim Healthcare, the one closest to you, there is one here in Columbia that services the Howard County area, different parts of PG County, all over Montgomery County and Washington, D.C. So yeah, you can hear from me by, Facebook, Interim Healthcare. You go online, you can find us. We are on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Those are various ways you need home care. And if we're not able to help you for whatever reason, we will the goal is to get you the home care services that you need, whether it's for a temporary or a short amount of time, or for a long long term, if we're not able to assist you for whatever the reason may be, we'll definitely get you to the home care provider that can help you.
I think this is excellent. And I love the point that you made about, hey, maybe try when you start to think that you might need some help, why not reach out then? You know, don't wait until it becomes a dire need. That's not the time a lot of times when you want to be establishing a relationship with somebody and seeing if something works for you. You know, when you start to kind of go, is a perfect time as an individual and as a family member. And remember, this is all about creating independence. And Mike, I really thought, and we want to go back to this, Jeanette said, and we talked a little about the cultural difference behind healthcare. And we talked about how if you're from Poland, you might think of healthcare differently, like kind of a sign of weakness. But Jeanette, you were saying that you guys, I'm sorry, Jeanette, that you guys might be taking the cultural differences of folks too when they need care. How might that give us some examples of how culture affects home health care?
Oh yeah, so in many different ways. Primarily, you know, and I don't want to speak about any specific cultures in particular, but you have some cultures that are very family oriented, and they do not believe in sending their loved ones out. It's when they were back home, the grandparents always lived with the children. You know, they didn't leave the home. You have some more people that are more successful. They have less time, so they can't manage. You know, because they're not home all the time. And then so the quickest way for them is, you know, well, I don't have time. I have a lot of things to do, but certain cultures, irregardless of the dynamics of the family, they believe that their family, their parent, they feel as though sending their family members to long-term care is a Haitians in particular. The Haitian people that I know, they would never send their parents. They don't believe in sending their parents to long-term care. You have some Africans when they were back home, they lived in homes where all the family was together. Generally, people would separate once someone got married, they would branch off, but the grandkids lived with the parents, you know, and like that. So culture does have an impact on how they view home care and also how they prepare for home care in the future. We noticed that there are certain cultures that, you know, they look and they prepare for it a little bit better. And, you know, some of it has to do with economics too. People really want to stay in their homes, regardless of what culture you want, regardless of what culture you are, but it's just the preparation for that in the future. But I know that certain cultures, you know, they absolutely believe that my mom is my responsibility, and then they get burnt out eventually at some point, and then that's when they call up. But definitely culture has a big impact on, you know, how they view family and their responsibility for their parents.
Nice. Very nice. One of the great sociologists of our time was Maslow. You might remember going through school, and you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we want seniors to be able to express their incredible stories with us as a culture for so long. Like, I feel like once people get to a certain age, sometimes in the United States, we have a tendency just to, push grandma off to the side. And I really like when we look at other cultures that hold grandma, hold grandpa at great reverence. And by doing home health care, and meeting those basic needs of being fed, of being clean, you know, being in a comfortable environment, you're able to share what makes you you and makes you so incredible for a longer period of time. And I think that is probably the greatest goal. Have you seen that in healthcare when you go, oh my gosh, we have allowed this incredible person to stay in this home for so long that they're truly able to still benefit society? Have you seen lots of examples of that?
Oh yeah, I just found out one of our clients. Unfortunately, she got dementia very early in her 60s, but she was one of the directors at Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Wow. But when you see her today, you would never know that unless, you know, her family told you that story. You have people, you know, that own businesses, during their time, that multiple businesses, or people that were, stay-at-home educators. We had one who was in education for a long time, was actually paying for services through her annuities that she and her husband did investments, and then the son is principal and he does investments. So you meet very influential people all the time. It's very fascinating, and it's very humbling as well when you see how age and time has, affected our bodies, but they all essentially want the same thing, and that is to be cared for, to be in their home with their families. All the ones that have their children living with them, they do so much better. They have, it's very good for the mental status because you're communicating, you're setting your mind. It helps to remember, very nostalgic things, that you have. And it also helps them with the caregiver. They're building relationships. So mentally, yeah, it's a very, very humbling and powerful thing when you meet someone, no idea what home you're coming into, and not knowing that this person was such a dynamic person. And just over the years, they caught up with them, and then now they just need us for a little bit of help.
That is fantastic. And one final thing is I want to ask, because this is an opportunity this is a growing field, home health care. I mean, I think it's going to continue to just blow up. Obviously you came from nursing. What are some other careers that make their way into home health care that we might not think about? Teachers, HR, what do we see?
You mean as far as the caregivers, or?
Yeah, as far as the caregiver, who can become a home health care aide?
Oh, wow. Yeah, we have so many people that come to us for a complete career change, primarily because of a life event.
Yes.
They took care of my grandmother. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and after taking care of her, I grew this passion, and I would like to know how I can get into home care. We have security officers, people who are former registered nurses who are coming back. People who, are new to the country and they would like to be able to do something. But you have so many varieties of people coming into nursing, with different people who own cosmetology stores, people who are hairdressers that are coming into doing nursing, and they're doing it outside. So sometimes it's because of a life event. Something traumatic happened to a family member that they loved, and they were caring for the family member, and they saw them decline at the latter end of their life, and then they decided, I really would like to give back. We have one lady, she worked at Amazon. She doesn't want to work at Amazon anymore. She was a delivery person, and then she said, I just want to do it for whatever reason. Yeah, so as long as we take you, we'll train you, we'll give you classes, making sure that you have all the things that you need, because there are a lot of regulations in Maryland.
I wanted to ask you, as we are talking about support for elderly and home care as a subject, I know that there are some frequently asked questions that you're getting, but also some frequently told tips for elderly. And I'm very curious if you could give us maybe like three, or American three, right? 3 tips that you think are very valuable, very valuable tips for elderly, or maybe for a family of an elderly person, to help them. And basically something that is like, hey, if you are in that situation, the 3 things that you always want to make sure that you do is 1, 2, and 3. What would you say they are?
Well, number 1, I think that it's very important to consider long-term care insurance, right? A lot of people want the services. They want to stay home. They can't afford it because it's an out-of-pocket expense. Medicare considers what we do non-medical as custodial care, right? They consider it something that it does not require a professional license to do, helping with the bathing, the dressing, the grooming, so they don't cover it. So a lot of clients have to pay for it out of pocket. And if they can't afford to stay in their home, then they're forced to go on Medicaid, or to go on, or to sell their home so that they can go into an assisted living facility or long-term care. So one of the main things that I made my parents do it, I even got it with research some long-term care insurance. I have Transamerica, there's John Hancock. Research some long-term care insurance and start making the investment today, so that when you are ready and you need it, you can go start getting those services. You don't have to worry about spending, the large amounts of money. The thing with long-term care insurance, it does have to go through an agency. It's not something that can be paid privately if you hire someone privately. So the agencies, out of pocket little expenses for some people. So I would first recommend definitely look and start researching into long-term care and getting it as soon as you can. The federal government offers plans, different programs for it, and then some people may have to get it and find it outside, but that's definitely number one. Number two is plan where you want to age in place, right? A lot of it is just planning. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to stay? What are your plans for yourself, and what are your basic needs? Start evaluating that when you get old. My father told me already, he said, Janan, you don't have to worry about me. I already know exactly what I'm doing. He bought his condo in Florida he said that he's going to do that, and he has his long-term care insurance. So plan where you want to live and start creating, ways so that because this is all part of your quality of life, right? You got to start planning. All your years, you planned for your children, you gave up everything for your family, and now it's time for you to start planning for the latter parts of your age. So long-term care insurance, definitely start deciding where you want to live. And the last thing, make sure that you have all of your documents in place, your next of kin, power of attorney, all of things, who's going to be making decisions, because we will naturally begin to will become less independent, become more dependent. So you need to make sure that you start planning, who's going to be responsible for those decisions. And when you do get long-term care insurance and you do get care, you're going to be responsible for making those payments in the event that you mentally decline and you're not able to make them yourself. So those are the three things that I would say. It's always planning. Long-term care insurance is very important. A lot of our clients who have long-term care insurance, they're living very well. You can decide how many hours you want based on how much you invested. You get the care, you get to stay at home, and you're happy, right? Then plan where you want to live. That's where you need to start, having that in your mind will make you decide financially what you're going to do. A lot of, unfortunately, because people do go into long-term care insurance, they're forced to sell their homes or sell their assets, and a lot of times we're not able to create generational wealth for our children because now we have to use all of our to take care of ourselves in the latter. So it's very good to plan where you want to live. What is your goal? Do you want to be in an assisted living facility? People like those 55 and 60 and over communities. They have programs for you. So plan for that and make sure you have all of your documents in place.
Thank you so much. This is very valuable. And I think out of those three, I would just not think about that long-term care insurance and planning. It seems obvious, but I know a lot of people plan when it's too late. And it's not really planning, but reacting. And then talking about actually, making sure that we have everything in place in terms of the documents. It's a tough decision to make because we always want to kind of like deny that we'll ever get older or we'll need those documents. But I think it's important for our own peace of mind to just have it and make sure that everything is in order so we don't have to worry about it later when maybe the time may not be the best. Dr. Todd, do you want to add anything to it, or do you have any specific questions? Because I think this is a very important topic, and I know we can talk for hours and hours about it. It's so important. I just want people to have a glimpse, a sneak peek to what home care actually is, that there are people to support. But I want to make sure that if there is any question that is pressing, Dr. Todd, please feel free to ask, especially if it could help our audience.
Yeah, not at this time. I think we covered it really well for the beginning. And I've just seen home health care done well. I've seen it not done at all. I've seen all gambits of healthcare for elderly, for my loved ones, done at different stages. And I just think it's one of the most honorable things that people can do career-wise is try to care with dignity for our elderly, for our most valuable resource. And I love how Janan is trying to do that for folks. So I'm honored to be co-host for tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's very, very valuable. And for all of you watching, just remember that there are groups like ours where people actually collaborate to give you the resources, to give you the knowledge, to show you what the, the quality of life can look like when you age. And there is a lot of different resources. If you have any questions, ask in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook or other platforms, follow us, not because we ask you, but because we will be bringing you more and more amazing guests and amazing hosts like Dr. Todd Johnsonbaugh and guests like Janan. We wish you a fantastic evening. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.